Dilute solutions, colligative properties, part 6, presented by G. Satyanarayana Gaud, Assistant Professor, Dr. B.R.R. Government College, Jarchala. In this lesson, we discuss about the relation between delta F and delta TF and RLVP, and problems on delta TF and RLVP, meaning of a normal molecular mass or molar mass, and some problems. Let me discuss about the relation between delta TF and RLVP. In last class, we have seen the meaning of delta TF. It is the depression of freezing point. What is the depression of freezing point? It is the difference between the freezing temperature of a freezing point of solvent and the freezing point of solution is called depression in freezing point. RLVP means relative lowering of vapor pressure. It is the ratio between the lowering of vapor pressure to the vapor pressure of pure solvent at given temperature. That is the meaning of RLVP. Now we are discussing about the relation between this delta TF and RLVP. This we can derive with help of the vapor pressure and temperature curves. Here you can see the graph vapor pressure versus temperature curve. Three curves are represented in this graph. One is the solvent, solution 1 and solution 2. Okay, three systems are there in this graph. Solvent, solution 1 and solution 2. So in a given solvent, we have dissolved a specified amount of solute, a non-volatile solute, to form a solution 1. Next, the solution 2 is a more concentrated solution compared to solution 1. For these systems, solvent, solution 1 and solution 2, we are drawing the graph between the vapor pressure versus temperatures. We know that the graph between the vapor pressure versus temperature is an exponential curve. So let's consider the solvent system. In this, as the temperature of the solvent, for example, the solvent is present at room temperature or some temperature. Now we are gradually decreasing the temperature of the solvent. In this direction, you can see this. You are decreasing the temperature of the solvent, so that what happened, the vapor pressure of solvent gradually decreases like this, exponentially decreases. In case of water, for example, when we decrease the temperature of the water under 1 atmosphere pressure, gradually its vapor pressure also decreases, and when it reaches to 0 degree centigrade, then what happened, the process of solidification will start. And also at 0 degree centigrade, we can see the existence of equilibrium between liquid and ice. That is liquid, water and ice, that we can see. So here the water, for example, you consider solvent as the water. If you are decreasing the temperature gradually, what happened? The vapor pressure also gradually decreases. When the point reaches A, means here at this point A, both the liquid and the vapor will liquid and solid will exist in equilibrium. You can see this is a solid curve. This represents the solid. So at point A, we can see at point A, at this point A, both the solid and liquid phases are present in equilibrium. Here, both the solid and liquid phases are present in equilibrium. So like that, we can see the curve of vapor pressure versus temperature in case of solvent. At point A, it is freezing. So A, the temperature which represent A on x-axis, it is nothing but the freezing point of water or solvent. This is the freezing point of solvent. It is represented by T naught. Clear? Yes. Now we see the vapor pressure curve of solution 1, in which a non-volatile solute is dissolved. In case of solution 1 also, at particular temperature, the solution system is there. Now gradually, when you are decreasing the temperature or cooling the solution 1, gradually its vapor pressure will fall exponentially. At point B, what happened? The solvent, the liquid solvent, means solvent which is there in the solution, the liquid solvent in the solution and solid solvent will exist in equilibrium at point B. Means at point B you can see the both phases of the solvent. One is the liquid phase as well as solid phase. Because the solid phase and liquid phase, both of them will exist in equilibrium at point B. So we say B, the temperature which corresponding to B represent the freezing point of solution 1. So freezing point of solution 1 is T1. This is a T1, means freezing point of the solution 1. Is it? So at freezing point we know that the liquid phase and solid phase of the solvent or liquid will exist in equilibrium. Similarly, we can see the vapor pressure curve of solution 2, which is more concentrated. That's why it is lying in lower position. When the solution 2 is gradually cooled, its vapor pressure gradually decreases. Finally, when it reaches to point C, at point C what happened? The solid as well as liquid phase of the solvent will exist in equilibrium here. So the corresponding temperature which represents the C, that is called here, this temperature is called T2. We are representing it by T2. That is the freezing point of solution 2. Okay, so A is the freezing point of the, that is T0 corresponding to T0, the freezing point of the solvent. B is the freezing point of the solution 1, which corresponds to T1, and C is the freezing point of the solution 2 corresponding to T2. If these curves are approximately treated as straight lines, the corresponding pressures also we can observe. It is a P0, the vapor pressure of a solvent at its freezing point, and P1 is the vapor pressure of the solution 1 at its freezing point, and P2 is the vapor pressure of the solution 2 at its freezing point. So P0 is greater than P1 is greater than P2. We can see, means when a non-volatile solute is dissolved in the solvent, what happened? The vapor pressure gradually decreases. You see, P0 to P1 it is decreasing. Some more non-volatile solute is dissolved in the solvent to form a more concentrated solution. So we can see P0 difference between the P0 and P2 is very large compared to P0 and P1. And you can also see the relation between the freezing points. T0 is greater than, T1 is greater than T2. So what is the relation we observed in this diagram? P0 is greater than, P1 is greater than P2, and T0 is greater than, T1 is greater than T2. From this we can easily understand that the temperature and the vapor pressure are the dependence factors each other. The function of vapor pressure is a function of temperature, we can say. Okay. Now we want to derive the relationship between the delta TF and RLVP. After understanding the concept which is given in this diagram, let me see the relationship between delta TF and RLVP. So in this diagram we can see the two similar triangles. What are the similar triangles? One of the similar triangle is ABD. This is the one of the similar triangle. Are you observing? ABD. Okay. The next similar triangle we can see here. There is a set of similar triangle we can see. Another one is ACE. This is ACE. These two are the similar triangles, is it? So in the case of similar triangles, we have the formula. What is that? Ratio between the similar sides. Ratio between the similar sides in similar triangles will be constant, is it? That is always constant. That's why for ADB and okay, for ADB and AC you can see this. ADB and ACE. BD divided by CE, that is BD, this part, divided by CE. These are considered approximately a straight line. That's why what is BD? Observing the BD is nothing but T0 minus T1. This is equivalent to this one approximately. So T0 minus T1. BD divided by CE means it is T0 minus T2. This part. So BD divided by CE is equal to AD divided by AE. This is AD. This is AD divided by AE. This part. So AD divided by AE, we can see that is it. Okay, this is AD. Then another part is AE. So we can substitute these values from the graph. We can substitute these values. So what is BD? It is T naught minus T1. This BD is nothing but it is T naught minus T1, and CE is T naught minus T2. This difference is equal to AD is P naught minus P1, and whereas AE is P naught minus P2. We substitute. So what is T naught minus T1? It is the depression of freezing point of first solution. Correct or not? T naught minus T1 is the depression of freezing point of first solution. Similarly, T naught minus T2 is the depression of freezing point of second solution. Right. So P naught minus P1 is the lowering of vapor pressure of first solution, and P naught minus P2 is the lowering of vapor pressure of second solution. Means delta T1 divided by delta T2 is equal to, is it delta T1 divided by delta T2 is equal to, what we can write it is delta P1 divided by delta P2. Is this one. Delta T1 divided by delta T2 is equal to delta P1 divided by delta P2. So this is happens when the delta T is directly proportional to delta P only. So based on this we can write delta T is directly proportional to delta P. Means greater the lowering of vapor pressure, greater will be the depression in freezing point. We know that lowering of vapor pressure is a colligative property, so that depression of freezing point is also a colligative property, that we can prove, is it? Okay, this is about the relation between delta TF and RLP. So from this relation also, now we can derive the equation for the relationship between depression of freezing point and molecular weight of solute. Or we can derive the relationship between delta TF and molality of solution. What is that? Molality of solution. Let me see that derivation part. Molality of solution. Yeah, we know that delta T is directly proportional to delta P, and also we can write delta T is directly proportional to delta P by P naught. Why? Because delta T is directly proportional to delta P, whereas if delta P is divided by a P naught is a constant. So when you are dividing this delta P by P naught, then also delta T exists as directly proportional to that part. That's why delta T is directly proportional to delta P by P naught. Since P naught is a constant, we know that P naught is a vapor pressure of solvent, pure solvent. Okay, so what is this delta P by P naught? It is the relative lowering of vapor pressure. Means delta TF is directly proportional to relative lowering of vapor pressure. This represents what? The depression of freezing point is directly proportional to lowering of vapor pressure, whereas this equation represents what? The depression of freezing point is directly proportional to relative lowering of vapor pressure. So from Raoult's law, we know the relative lowering of vapor pressure is equal to the mole fraction of solute. What is the mole fraction of solute? It is X2. So X2 can be written in the form of number of mole, that is N2 divided by N1 plus N2. But in the case of very dilute solutions, N2 divided by N1 plus N2. In case of very dilute solutions, the denominator N2 can be neglected compared to N1, because it is a dilute solution, the amount of solute is very less compared to the amount of solvent. So only the term will be N2 divided by N1 we have. N2 means number of moles of solute, it is small w by small m. N1 is the number of moles of solvent, it is W by capital M. Is it? This mole fraction can be, in dilute solution we can be reduced only to N2 divided by N1. N2 means it is W divided by small m, this part. Whereas N1 is W by capital M. When you write in properly, then the denominator again becomes a numerator there, is it? So in order to write the is equal to, we are introducing a constant which is called K. So delta TF is equal to K into W capital M divided by small m into capital W. Remember, K is a constant, small w is the weight of solute in grams, capital M is the molecular weight of solvent, small m is the molecular weight of solute, capital W is the weight of solvent. But these things we know, is it? Because already we have discussed this in remaining colligative properties. So in order to introduce the term of molality, let you divide and multiply this equation by 1000. So you are dividing by 1000 as well as multiplying by 1000. We know the molarity is equal to number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 kilogram of solvent. That's why molarity formula you can see small w by small m into 1000 by capital W. So small w by small m is small m into capital W divided what is that into 1000 is this rounded off part. You see this rounded off part is representing what molality. Instead of this part you can write molality. That's why delta T is equal to K into molality into small capital M divided by 1000. This one. Delta T is equal to K into capital M divided by 1000 into molality. Small m is the molality here, please. There should be no confusion between this small m and this small m. This small m is representing what? Molality. You have to remember that molality. There the small m representing in this equation, the small m is representing the molecular weight of solute. So K is a constant, M is also a constant. Why? Because M is a molecular weight of solvent. It will be the constant for a given solution, and 1000 is also a numerical value. That's why Km by 1000 is a constant. So we can write Km by 1000 is equal to Kf. That's why delta T is equal to Kf. If you write delta T is equal to Kf into molality. Here, sorry for representing Kb, it should be what? Kf. So delta Tf is equal to Kf into molality. That is the relation between the molality and depression of freezing point. Okay, so from thermodynamics already we have discussed in the last class. From thermodynamics also we have derived the equation for delta Tf. Delta Tf is equal to RT square divided by delta H fusion into capital M divided into small m. Delta Tf is equal to RT square divided by delta H fusion into capital M1 into small m. This part is representing Kf. Kf is equal to, it is RT squared divided by delta H fusion into M1. Is that we have derived this from thermodynamics. What is meaning of Kf? Kf is called as cryoscopic constant. It is molar depression constant. Kf is a cryoscopic constant or molar depression constant. What is the equation for Kf? RT square divided by delta H fusion into M1. R is universal gas constant. T is the freezing point of solvent. Freezing point of solvent. Delta H fusion is molar enthalpy of fusion. Molar enthalpy of fusion. Capital M1 is the molecular weight of solvent. Means the value of Kf depends only on nature of solvent, not on the solute. Is it okay? So we have seen the relation between the depression of freezing point and relative lowering of vapor pressure. From that we have derived the equation between delta Tf and molality, and also we have seen in the last class the equation for Kf. Kf is equal to RT square delta H fusion into M1. Okay, these things are very important. You have to remember and you have to practice it. Okay, next you see the abnormal molar mass, because already we have discussed all colligative properties. One is the relative lowering of vapor pressure, second is osmotic pressure, third is elevation of boiling point, and fourth one was depression of freezing point. All these are colligative properties. Now we discuss about the meaning of abnormal molar mass. What is the purpose of colligative properties in the earlier? The purpose of the colligative property is to determine the molecular weight of solute dissolved in the solution. That was one of the techniques, experimental technique. We can determine the molecular weight of solute by these experiments, by these phenomena. Okay, so but in case of solutes which undergo association or dissociation, the experimentally observed molar mass and calculated molar mass solutes are not the same. For example, it means, for example, NaCl is there. We know the formula mass of NaCl is 58.5. When we perform the colligative properties experiments to determine the molecular weight of NaCl, we will not observe, or the experiment will not show the molecular weight of NaCl as 58.5. It will be less than that 58.5 because NaCl is undergoing dissociation. Like that means the actual calculated molecular weight of NaCl is 58.5, but we observed the less than that 58.5. Means that observed molecular weight, which is different from actual molecular weight, is called abnormal molar mass, right? Similarly, in the case of acetic acid, you see acetic acid will dissociate in presence of benzene or benzoic acid, benzenes. Acetic acid will dissociate at dimer. Dimer when two molecules will associate together. Means the size of particle is increasing. The number of particles are decreasing in the system due to association. If you determine the molecular mass of acetic acid with help of the colligative property, now that will not be equal to 60, because we know the molecular mass of acetic acid is 60. It will not be 60. We observe the molecular mass of acetic acid more than 60. Actually, it is 60, but we will observe what? More than 60. Means there is a difference between the molecular mass of acetic acid. That is, difference is there between the experimentally observed as well as actual. These experimentally observed molar masses are called abnormal molar masses. So in which case we can see the abnormal molar masses in case of the solutes which undergo dissociation or association in presence of solvent is called. That in those cases only we see the abnormal molar mass. Okay, so the molar masses other than the calculated or actual molar masses are called abnormal molar masses. These phenomena or these situations we see in the case of solutes which undergo association or dissociation. Did you see the solute which undergo association? What happened? The solute which undergo association, here you can see the number of solute particles decreases due to association. You see acetic acid is forming the dimer. Mean two molecules will gather together to form a one particle. Mean due to this association, what happened? Number of solute particle decreases. So that when the number of particle decreases, colligative property also decreases, because the colligative property is directly proportional to number of particles. So as the number of particle decreases, colligative property decreases. Due to association, number of particle decreases, so colligative property will decrease. That we can see. Similarly, you see the solute which undergo dissociation. Just now we said it is NaCl, for example. Means one NaCl formula is forming two ions, Na plus and Cl minus, like that. Due to this, what happens? The number of solute particles increases. When the number of solute particles increases, what of colligative property also increases, because the colligative property again directly proportional to number of solute particles. Okay, so the observed value of colligative property also increases. Like this, we can see the difference in the colligative property due to association and dissociation. Right. Next, you see the relation between the colligative property and molar mass of the solutes. We have derived the different equations for colligative properties. One is the RLVP, second is osmotic pressure, third is elevation of boiling point, fourth one is depression in freezing point. Here we are mentioning all the formulas which we have derived. These formulas give us a relationship between that specified colligative property and molar mass of the solute. You see the RLVP P0 minus P1 divided by P0 is equal to W2 M1 divided by W1 M2. This M2 is the molecular mass of solute. This is the colligative property. What is that colligative property? RLVP. Right. In the case of osmotic pressure, pi is equal to CST. We said, or C is the molar concentration. It is W2 by M2 into V. Number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter solution into RT. Here also you can see the relationship between this colligative property pi and molecular mass or molar mass of the solute M2. Okay. Next, elevation of boiling point delta TB is equal to RT square by delta H Vp. That is vaporization into W2 M1 divided by W1 M2. Here also you can see delta T P is inversely proportional to what? M2. M2 is the molecular mass of the solute. Similarly, delta TF is inversely proportional to M2. Again, M2 is the molecular mass of solute. This is depression in freezing point. In each and every case, how the colligative property is related with the molar mass? Colligative property is inversely proportional to molecular weight of solute. colligative property is inversely proportional to molecular weight of solute. Is it? So that we can see here, is it? There is a relation existing in the equations, right? Now, how to see that how these abnormal molar masses will be normalized. How the abnormal molar masses are normalized. In order to normalize the abnormal molar mass into normal molar masses, actual molar masses, the Van 't Hoff introduced a factor which is called Van 't Hoff factor I. Let me see what is meaning of Van 't Hoff factor. So, what is meaning of abnormal molar mass we have seen? It is observed in the case of association or dissociation of solute, that's fine. The second, what we are observing, the relation between the colligative property and molar mass. It is inversely proportional. We know that. So, in case of abnormal molar masses, how can we make them equal to normal molar mass that we see? In order to make them normal, Van 't Hoff introduced a factor which is called Van 't Hoff factor. Okay, so what is Van 't Hoff factor? What is the definition? It's given like this. The Van 't Hoff factor is defined as the ratio between the observed colligative property and normal colligative property. Observed colligative property and observed means experimentally observed property. Normal means if association and dissociation is not there, it is not present, then what will be the normal? What will be the actual colligative property? Okay, this is a Van 't Hoff factor, observed colligative property by normal colligative property. But we know that observed colligative property is inversely proportional to molar mass. Just now in previous slide we have seen the colligative property is inversely proportional to molar mass of solute. That's why this can be defined like this also. Van 't Hoff factor I is equal to normal molar mass of the solute divided by observed molar mass of the solute. Here you see observed colligative property, in the denominator observed molar mass. In the first equation, normal colligative property is there in the denominator, whereas in the second equation, normal molar mass is there in the numerator. Means both of them is, if you see these two equations, how the colligative property and molar mass are related, inversely proportional, that we can see. In both of these ways, we can define the Van 't Hoff factor I. So, I is equal to observed colligative property by normal colligative property, or Van 't Hoff factor I is equal to normal molar mass by observed molar mass. Yes. Let me see how we can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor. Okay, here this problem is taken for in order to understand the concept. The degree of dissociation of NaCl is 20%. Calculate its Van 't Hoff factor. Right. What is the degree of dissociation of NaCl? It is 20%. We know how the NaCl will dissociate like this. You see, NaCl gives Na plus Cl minus. Before ionization, percentage is given. So whenever the percentage is given, let's say the total number of molecules in the beginning 100. So in the beginning, no dissociation will be there. That's why 0 Na plus and Cl minus is also 0. After ionization at equilibrium, what happened? What is the degree of dissociation? 20. Means out of this 100, 20 molecules are dissociating, or 20 units are dissociating. We know that one NaCl formula unit will form 1 Na plus and 1 Cl minus. That's why 20 NaCl units will form 20 Na plus and 20 Cl minus. So here, what are the actual number of NaCl particles you dissolved? It is 100. Correct or not? This is the actual number. Means the colligative property which corresponding to this 100 is the normal colligative property. But what happened here? The solute is undergoing dissociation. When the solute is undergoing dissociation, what happened? You see, the system is containing how many particles here? 80 molecules of NaCl, or 80 formula units of NaCl, 20 formula units of Na plus and 20 formula units of Cl minus. Because 100 minus 20, 20 and 20. What are the existing in the system? Number of particles existing in the system. All particles you have to see. So 80, 20, 20. Total is 120. But actually you have dissolved only 100 molecules. After dissolving due to dissociation, what happened? The number of particles is increasing to 120. This is actual, this is observed. So according to the definition of Van 't Hoff factor, what is the formula? Observed colligative property by normal colligative property. So what are the observed colligative property? It is directly proportional to 120, this one. What is normal colligative property? It is directly proportional to 100, this one. So you can substitute in this formula. Van 't Hoff factor is good. Observed is, actually it is observed is 120 by normal is 100. 120 by 100 means it is 1.2. This is Van 't Hoff factor. Like this we can calculate. Is it clear? So you write the number of particles taken. You write the situation at ionization, after ionization, then you calculate the total number of particles after ionization, then you calculate Van 't Hoff factor by substituting the observed colligative property divided by normal colligative property. Right. Next you see the second question. In the case of association we are observing now. The degree of association of CH3COH in benzene is 10%. Calculate its Van 't Hoff factor. So remember here one of the information should be also given, that is what acetic acid will undergo dimerization in benzene, that we know. So 2 CH3COH gives CH3COOH taken twice. Means two molecules are gathering together, you see, taken twice to form only one particle. Two particles are converting into one particle. Means number of particles are decreasing. In this case, you have to see, you have to calculate the degree of association, Van 't Hoff factor. So before association, how many particles we are taken? Percentage is given, that's why we say 100. No association, that's why it is 0. Now association started, it is completed. After association, you see it is 10% given, so that's why out of 100, 10 molecules are associating. So how the association is taking place? Two molecules are converting as one particle. In this case, the number of acetic acid molecules associated is 10 out of 100. These 10 molecules will convert as only the 5 particles, because two molecules are gathered together to form a particle. That's why 10 will convert into 5. That's why we are writing 10 by 2 is equal to 5. Okay, so after association, how many particles are there in the solution? You have to see solute particles. Here the remaining acetic acid molecules are 90. Here the number of particles associated will be 5. Total 95. Actually taken it is 100. So this is a normal colligative property, 100 corresponding to normal colligative property, whereas 90 plus 5, 95 corresponding to observed colligative property. So observed colligative property directly proportional to 95, normal colligative property directly proportional to 100, so that you can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor. 95 by 100 means 0.95. Like this we can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor. It is defined as the ratio between observed colligative property and normal colligative property, or the ratio between the normal molecular weight and observed molecular weight in the colligative properties experiments. Now we derive the equation for Van 't Hoff factor that shows the relationship between the Van 't Hoff factor and degree of dissociation. For example, X is a solute, it is dissociating to form N particles. Okay, it is N particle, it is forming N particle, means one molecule is dissociating to give N particles. Before dissociation, let's say it is 1, it is 0. After ionization or dissociation, you see 1 minus alpha means we are saying the degree of dissociation of this X is alpha. That's why 1 minus alpha. So how many particles are forming? 1 is forming N particle. That's why when alpha is undergoing dissociation, the number of particles formed will be N alpha. See, NaCl is forming 2 particles after dissociation. If 10 particles of NaCl are dissociating, means 20 particles will form, like that is it. So alpha is undergoing dissociation here, means the number of particles now present in the system will be N alpha. Right. So what is the observed colligative property here? 1. What is observed colligative property will be equal to 1 minus alpha plus N alpha. This is our observed colligative property, 1 minus alpha plus N alpha. What is normal? Normal should be only 1, because you have taken only 1 mole. Let's say 1 mole. 1 particle we cannot take, it's only 1 mole is it. So the normal colligative property directly proportional to 1, whereas observed colligative property after ionization you have to calculate the total number of particles. It is 1 minus alpha plus n alpha. Now we calculate the Van Hoff factor observed by calculated. So I is equal to, observed is what? 1 minus alpha plus n alpha divided by, is it actually it is 1, normal is 1. So we can write it is I is equal to only 1 minus alpha plus n alpha. You put alpha terms together and shift this 1 in opposite direction, so it becomes I minus 1 is equal to n alpha minus alpha. From this I minus 1 is equal to n alpha minus alpha. You write alpha as common, I minus 1 is equal to alpha into n minus 1, or alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. This is a relationship between degree of dissociation and Van Hoff factor in case of solutes which undergo dissociation in the solution. What is alpha? Degree of dissociation. I is the Van Hoff factor. What is n? N is the number of particles forming from one molecule of solute in dissociation process. That is, so alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. Is it clear? Alpha is degree of dissociation. I is the Van Hoff factor, where n is the number of particles forming from one molecule of solute in the dissociation process. It's a relationship between the Van Hoff factor and degree of dissociation. Next, you see the relationship between the Van Hoff factor and the degree of association. In case of association, we have to say, not dissociation, it is association, we have to see. The Van Hoff factor in case of association of solute. Let A is associating like that, AN. N is the number of molecules associated. In case of acetic acid, we were observing that dimerization is taking place. So 2 CH3COH gives CH3COH taken twice, like that. You say N particles are associating. N particles are associated to give AN. Okay, before association, how many moles we have taken? 1 mole we have taken. After association, you see 1 minus x. If it is 1 minus x, it is forming x by n. It is giving what? X by n. Is it suppose 10 molecules of acetic acid are associating as dimers? You see how many particles will form? 5 means 10 by 2 dimerization. Trimerization, the number 10 by 3, like that we can see. So X is undergoing association. That's why the number of particles forming after association will be x by n. N is the number of particles associated. For dimerization, n is equal to 2. In trimerization, n is equal to 3, and so on. So actual colligative property will be directly proportional to 1, and observed colligative property will be directly proportional to 1 minus x plus x by n. X is the degree of association. X is nothing but degree of association. You remember that, degree of association. So observed is 1 minus x plus x by n. Normal is directly proportional to 1. So Van Hoff factor I will be equal to observed by normal colligative property, observed colligative property by normal colligative property. That's why 1 minus x plus x by n divided by 1. We shift 1 this side, so I minus 1 becomes equal to x by n minus x, or I minus 1 is equal to x is a common, 1 by n minus 1. Or you write equation for x, I minus 1 by n minus 1. So x is the degree of association. That is how it is related with the Van Hoff factor. You can see x is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. X is degree of association. I is the Van Hoff factor. N is the number of molecules or particles associating. Dimerization, n is equal to 2. Trimerization, n is equal to 3, like that. There's a relationship between the Van Hoff factor and what is that? Association of solute particles. The degree of association of solute particles. You can see that is it. Now we can verify these with the help of the problems again. Already we have seen these problems, but in these formulas we are substituting. Earlier we have solved this. You see, the degree of dissociation of NaCl is 20%. Calculate its Van Hoff factor. So what is alpha? Alpha is 0.2 because 20 by 100 percentage is given, and n is 2 because when NaCl is dissociating, 2 particles will form. That's why n is equal to 2. Let us substitute alpha 0.2. I minus 1 divided by, what is n here? 2 minus 1. or I is equal to, here 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 into 0.2, 0.2, you can shift this one this side, so it will get 1 by 1.2. In previous case also you have seen this problem, is it? Here it is 1.2, when 20%. We can substitute in this formula and verify, very easy. Okay, like this we can calculate with the formula. So alpha, in case of dissociation, what is the formula? Alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. I we are calculating, alpha is given 0.2, 20% it is, and n is equal to 2 whenever the NaCl is dissociating into particles, that is ions. Okay, next you see the next question. The degree of association of acetic acid in benzene is 10%. Calculate 1/2 factor. So acetic acid undergo dimerization in benzene. Yes, x is equal to 10% means 10 by 100 is 0.1. Dimerization, it is n is equal to 2. Now what is the formula that gives a relationship between the degree of association and 1/2 factor? X is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. So x is equal to 0.1 you are substituting, n is equal to 2 you are substituting, so that you are calculating value of I. So 0.1 is equal to I minus 1 by 2 minus 1. So I minus 1 is equal to 0.1 into this, not x, please, 0.1 into 0 minus 0.5. So this will be, you see, I minus 1 is equal to 0.1 into, it is minus 0.5. Means it will be minus 0.05 this part. So I will be equal to 1 minus 0.05, it is 0.95. Okay, we have already seen this problem. Here you can see this 0.95. As if we can solve the problems by using these formulas also. So from this, what we have discussed, you see, the 1/2 factor will be equal to 1 for ideal solute, because there the we cannot talk about the abnormal molar mass. The type of molar masses are not observed. We can calculate the exact molar masses or determine exact molar masses from colligative property. The type of solutes are called ideal solutes. In case of those ideal solutes, 1/2 factor is equal to 1. If the solute undergo dissociation, 1/2 factor will be greater than 1. Just now we have seen NaCl, it is 1.2. For a given problem, it was 1.2. In case of solutes which undergo association, the 1/2 factor will be less than 1. In case of acetic acid, we have seen it is 0.95. So I is equal to 1. Solute does not undergo association or dissociation. I is greater than 1. For solutes which undergo dissociation, I will be less than 1 for solutes which undergo association. So by using this 1/2 factor, we can calculate the normal molar mass of the solutes. The formulas which we have in case of colligative properties, in those formulas we introduce this term. You see, the RLUP is equal to W2 into M1 by W1 into M1 into I. You have to multiply with I. Similarly, pi is equal to I into W2 by M2V into RT. Similarly, elevation of boiling point delta T B is equal to I 1/2 factor into the formula, you see, RT square W2 M1 divided by delta H vibration W1 into M2. Depression of freezing point I into RT square into W2 M1 divided by delta H fusion into W1 into M2. So I have to introduce the term of what? I in each and every formula, so that with the help of this we can calculate the normal molecular mass of the solute, even though we observed the abnormal molecular masses by experiments. Okay, so in case of, you see, this is delta TF and M2 are how they are related here. Delta TF and molecular mass are related, inversely proportional. They are inversely proportional. So delta TF is equal to I into this formula part. So I should be introduced in these. Is it? So I is there in the numerator, is it? I is there in the numerator. In the case of solutes which undergo association, I will be less than what we say 1. I will be less than 1. That's why, due to association, we observe the higher molecular masses. For example, acetic acid is there in molecular mass is 60. In the dimerization, if it undergo 100% dimerization, its molecular mass is observed as 120, not 60. So the observed molecular mass or experimentally retained molecular mass will be more than the expected. So it can be minimized by using I. You know that I will be less than 1 here. When I is less than 1, so that what happened, this molecular mass which you have calculated, that will be minimized. Similarly, in the dissociation process, the observed molecular masses will be less. So they can be increased to the actual molar mass by multiplying with I, because I will be greater than 1 here. I will be greater than 1 here. Like that we can calculate the actual molar masses with help of these Van 't Hoff factors. Thank you. So what we have discussed, you see, once again, we have discussed the relationship between the uh, depression of freezing point time, RLVP. From that we have established the relationship between delta TF and molality. Then we have seen the meaning of abnormal molar mass and the relationship between the colligative property and the molecular mass of the solute, and how these abnormal molar masses are converted into normal molar masses with help of Van 't Hoff factor we know. And we have defined the Van 't Hoff factor, and we have calculated the Van 't Hoff factor in case of association and dissociation, and we have derived the equation for Van 't Hoff factor and degree of association or dissociation for the solutes which undergo association or dissociation. And how can we use that Van 't Hoff factor in the formulas? Those things we have discussed. With this, the colligative property chapter is over. Thank you all.